Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. 11:08 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, April 26, 2015. And I've got you over here on the Weather Channel. We're looking at the live weather feed with storm tracking turned on to see what's going on here down in South Texas. And I'm sure this will be either on the news tonight or tomorrow. We've got a series of very strong storms that have broken out, and this is across the area of Fort Worth and Dallas. We have tornado warning issued right here, where you can see this yellow box and red box and light red box. The light red box indicates a tornado watch, so they're watching for possible tornadoes, but the dark red and the yellow, severe thunderstorm, and also tornado warning. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn on storm tracking, and this is the computer detection of what's going on up inside the storms itself. And we can click on these, and we have a strength indication. The highest this goes is 15, so these are detected, each one of these is registering a 15 in rotation and storm intensity. And of course, that's designated by the National Weather Service and the facilities that maintain and operate the Titan storm tracking system. And it's able to detect whether or not there's hail inside of a storm, damaging winds, that's what this yellow indication is here, and hail is blue down here. And the tornadoes and the rotation that's detected is marked as a tornado by the computer. And there's varying degrees from 8 to 15 again. So, what's right here at this location? Right down below this, and I mean right below, is the NEXRAD radar location for the area, ironically. And to see that, I want to bring you over here to College of DuPage, and we'll click on the NEXRAD radar locations, go in for Dallas-Fort Worth, and we'll look at the last 200 images. Now what you're going to see here is the whole storm as it forms and comes down, and you'll see it go directly to the NEXRAD radar station, and then something happens as the storm passes over the radar station that's undeniable. And I'll just go ahead and let you guys see it. I won't even tell you what's going to happen over the radar station. And we'll let these files load, and we'll watch this image multiple times, so this is okay. As the storms come in from different directions, they all head towards the center, and then when they get towards the center, observe what happens. I hope you can see that. That might not be distinguishable. I'm zooming it in now, and we'll stop it and bring it forward frame by frame. Again. So now that you've seen that come in, I'm backing this out, and you can see the storms intensify and begin their rotation once they begin to enter that 50 nautical mile radius of the NEXRAD. The closer they get towards the station, the more the rotation develops. And of course, now we are looking at multiple possible tornadoes, damaging winds, hail. These are the warnings and watches issued from the National Weather Service. We're here now on Intellicast taking a look. Okay, and Intellicast Weather Channel, Intellicast was bought by the Weather Channel now 2 years ago. So this is like the couple hundredth time we've seen tornadoes form directly over the NEXRAD radar stations, and now we're entering the multiple hundreds of times. And if there's a transmitter there or a transmitter not there, that's determining whether or not a tornado forms in that location. Literally, if you have a transmitter there, your chance is more likely than not to have the tornado form there than anywhere else. And the other areas won't have the tornado form. The area with the transmitter will see the hail, the damaging winds, and the rotation. Now that this has happened, this perfectly segues in to the next portion of this video, which is what you're going to see on the screen here are a series of experiments that have been done by scientists over in Switzerland that just broke in the news yesterday. And now this is a story that we've been talking about personally online for the last 2.5, 3 years, which is weather modification using high-powered systems such as lasers, high-powered microwaves, and that's what we're talking about here with the NEXRAD radar station. Now, 2 years ago, scientists proved that high-powered microwaves, which is the same thing that an X-rad radar is, induce rotation above the transmitter. They were able to replicate this in the laboratory, and they said the potential uses for it are to generate tornadoes that can then harvest the energy, turn turbines, that sort of thing. So that's one use for the microwave-induced rotation. Now, why does that happen? There's a polarization that happens of the charged ions that are stripped from the air using high-powered systems. So now this new experiment proves that not only does it induce rotation, you can see here that this laser is producing a rotation, not just producing the actual ionization and molecules of water that they're talking about making clouds and weather modification with this device over in Switzerland. It proves, when you see this, that the high-powered system also causes a rotation and a wind effect where the ionization occurs. That's due to magnetism. Okay? So, the NEXRAD radar systems are producing rotation above the transmitter, that's proved via the one experiments, and this next high-powered transmission, laser transmission, proves that it will induce CCN formation, cloud condensation nuclei, water molecules, and storms. So, wind, water molecules, and storms produced by high-power transmissions. Now that we come back over and we take another look now at what's going on here in Dallas, and as you were just being explained that whole thing, a series of more tornado detections popped up here around the area. And again, this refreshed, so this is fresh information. They redid the warning, and the warning has been now moved just a little bit north. And that again is directly over the NEXRAD radar transmitter, which is right here. So all of this happening right here. And now picking up again within that 50-mile range of the NEXRAD transmitter, and right when it passes inside of that 50-mile range. Every time. And the closer it gets towards the transmitter, the harder the rotation is, as proved in the experiments. So when we see this activity occurring, guys, we can understand that it's produced and induced by man-made systems. Look, last year, a weather person in Colorado asked the question, are airports causing tornadoes? And they overlooked the radar transmitter there, and they asked the question mockingly, are airports causing tornadoes? No, it's just a chance, it's just a coincidence. No, it's not. We've seen it in Key West, Florida. We've seen it in the far northeast in Maine, at the border of Maine and New Brunswick. We've seen it in the far northwest, all the way up in Washington State and Oregon. We've seen it in areas that are not normally tornado prone. We've seen it in the middle of winter. We've seen it at times when there's no storm present, and it kicks up out of a flash of pulse of energy, and that kicks up a rotation and a tornado rotation detection. Now again, people said this was impossible. Well, now it's been proved that it's possible. It is indeed possible. Now, are they doing it on purpose? I don't know. Could be unintentional. They might just be trying to observe the storm as it's passing and not realizing that their high-powered microwave transmitter is inducing rotation around their transmitter. You know, maybe the National Weather Service is scratching their head wondering why all their offices are all of a sudden getting hit since 1988 when they rolled around and put out the NEXRAD WSR-88. 750,000 microwave watts pumped out in a targeted way up into the atmosphere. It's proved that microwave transmissions induce rotation above the transmitter. Now, keep in mind that the NEXRAD's rotating itself. How much more would that induce rotation if the transmission itself induces rotation? If the transmitter is rotating while it's inducing rotation, don't you think that could have a cyclonic magnetic effect upon the oppositely charged storms in the sky? I mean, this is just basic physics now we're talking about here that's being denied by a lot of people still. But they can't deny it anymore. The experiments have been done. Look, if you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, look where microwaves reside. Look where lasers reside. I have 2 infrared lasers that I purchased from the National Weather Service at an auction. 240-watt infrared lasers used for cloud height measurement, where it penetrates the clouds and goes up to 25,000 feet. Infrared lasers. Well, infrared lasers right above microwave. A high-powered microwave transmission, as explained by the scientist here, just go ahead and listen to it in his own words. Listen to this.
So if you're in your bathroom, you have a lot of water vapor, but no drops in the air. But if you look instead at the mirror, it's full of droplets because it needs some surface where the water can stick on. And here, this kind of surface is replaced by the laser itself.
And they proved it can work outside the lab in the skies above Rome in 2013, an invisible beam creating wisps of cloud.
Okay, so now you heard it, all right? You heard it in his own words, that the laser beam acts like a solid surface. Okay, so if the laser beam acts like a solid surface for the water to condense upon and for that rotation to occur off of, and that would be a rotating solid surface, by the way, because the oscillations that are happening inside of a laser beam or inside of a microwave are going to cause waves. They're actually rotating. An oscillation could be called actually a rotation. The wave isn't just going up and down, it's actually three-dimensional and it's rotating through space. So you can imagine a three-dimensional spring-shaped rotation emanating out from a transmitter going up into the sky, almost looking like a cyclone itself, but invisible to the human eye. This is on the magnetic and radio frequency bands only. We're not talking about something you can see yet. But then the clouds and the storms follow that once the ionization reaches a point where it cascades. When the power gets too much and we start seeing that interaction between ground and cloud, that's when we start seeing the rotation form. And it comes down to ground and touches down near the transmitter that's emitting this rotation signal. And again, it could be unintended on their part. Maybe they know and they're using it to their benefit. I doubt they're trying to draw tornadoes towards their transmitters. They might be doing a series of experiments, seeing if what we're talking about for the last 3 to 4 years it actually happens. Who knows what the reasoning is behind why they're doing it, or if they know why they're doing it. All I'm telling you is that it's happening. Okay, there's been denial in the past. I think it's pretty obvious now that if you deny that the tornadoes are forming over the NEXRAD radar transmitters, then you're denying just the facts. And you're going to have to explain why the tendency is for the tornadoes to form over or near the transmitters. At this point, somebody has to explain that to me. Why are the tornadoes, if you don't believe that the high power transmitter is inducing the rotation, even though the experiments already show that high power transmissions produce rotation, if you don't believe that, even though the science says that it's true, then please explain to me. Actually, don't explain to me. I don't want to hear really what your excuse is. But I'm just asking this question rhetorically, which is please explain to me why then a tornado would have a tendency to form in that location. What, did they go pick the NEXRAD location specifically out where tornadoes always form? I mean, seriously? I mean, really? How about in the areas where tornadoes don't normally form at all, up in Rhode Island over the Air Force Base? How about that one day where in one single day across the entire country, tornadoes formed over 3 or 4 different Air Force bases only? But it's happened so many times. I've got hundreds of examples. At this point, I think people need to wake up and realize that high-power transmissions are causing weather effects and that the National Weather Service at some point bears responsibility for ignoring the science that's already been done, not realizing that their system is inducing storms around the area that's causing damage and hurting people. Look, last year when Moore, Oklahoma got struck, we were watching Moore, Oklahoma, specifically at the National Weather Service office, to be hit. Why? Because the Norman, Moore, Oklahoma radar pulse that happened a day before. And we were only watching that area. And that area was pretty much the only area to get that huge tornado. It happened in Joplin the year before. All my viewers remember, I issued a warning 2 days beforehand for Joplin and Springfield, Missouri only, for a tornado to hit 100% chance within 2 to 3 days. I said a 100% chance. I said it. Everybody else remembers that. And then Joplin got hit 100% with the biggest tornado in Joplin's history. It made national news. It happened again down in Birmingham with the big tornado outbreak down there. Named out, gosh, I mean, places that I'd never heard of. Philadelphia, down here. Philadelphia, Mississippi. Never had even heard of it. The only reason I knew about it is because a giant pulse happened out of the NEXRAD radar station. Here it is, Philadelphia. Happened out of the NEXRAD radar station nearby. And Philadelphia got hit with a tornado directly. This little itty bitty thing right here. Now, I didn't just guess at Philadelphia. There was a giant pulse that happened out of the area, and I said, oh, what's the nearby town that could be hit by that? And it got creamed. And then it went right on up here through Birmingham and hit the NEXRAD radar stations there. Directly over. I mean, we're talking, it's happened here in St. Louis, Missouri. Out here in Weldon Springs, let me tell you guys, I live in St. Louis, and our NEXRAD, we have 3 different radars in the area, okay? We've got the NEXRAD radar, which is located in Weldon Springs, out here where it says Chesterfield, right across Weldon Springs, right there. Then we have another one in Maryland Heights nobody knows about. It's an Air Force Missile Defense Early Warning High-Powered Microwave Radar located in St. Ann Overland. And then we have a TDWR, Terminal Doppler Weather Radar, for the airport right across the highway from the airport at the end of the runway. And time and time and time again, and I've got family that lives out in this region, the tornado will form directly over Weldon Springs and Chesterfield. It will go right towards Maryland Overland, pass right over there and make a hard left, go up to the airport to the end of the runway where multiple tornadoes have touched down right across the highway over the TDWR radar, and then go up and around. And let me take that path for you again. So we'll see storms come in from the west, from the south, from the northwest, and they'll hit where the radar is. Again, out here, Highway 40. If you guys are from St. Louis, Chesterfield, okay, you'll see it at Weldon Springs, make the freaky weather out there, and then it makes the straight towards Overland, and then a hard north towards the airport, and it happens in a U shape, and the tornadoes always hit right there. Very rarely do we get any tornado formation down here to the south. And I live in South St. Louis. We've only had a few come through down here to the south, and if they do, they stick to the north of the south, because very few transmitters are down at this location. Over here at Scott Air Force Base, where there supposedly isn't any radar itself, well, I don't know what the Air Force is doing out there, guys, but you'll see tornado formation again kick back up right over in Scott Air Force Base and then die out once it passes by. And this is from years of observation. And this has happened in St. Louis, the tornadoes that have formed and hit the airport over and over and over and over and over again. It's happened way too many times for it to be a coincidence here in St. Louis. Happened out in Denver, happening down here in Texas. It's happened over and over and over again. Everywhere where there's a high power transmitter, there has been some kind of serious rotation that's developed in the past few years. I would want to say all 50 states. I haven't been able to document all 50 states. Near all 50 states have been hit, and we're talking directly at the transmitter. When there could have been storms forming anywhere else on the state, they form there only. And I'll put a screenshot up here from a year ago that's just phenomenal. You can see the huge storm warning on the screen here, and that little red speck is the Air Force Base. And the tornado formed right there. This is on the East Coast. And look at the date and the time on that, guys. Okay, we're not talking about normal tornado formation time here. Far East Coast, right along the ocean, Air Force Base. How much more do we need? So let's take one last look. Let's back this out and take one more look at what's going on now down here in Texas, now that I've been recording this video for a fair amount of time. How far has the tornado warning moved? It hasn't moved at all, even though this is all updated and refreshed. And some people say IntelliCast. We don't like IntelliCast. Well, let's go over to the Weather Channel one more time. Okay, and we'll wait for this all to load. Of course, it's going to be running slightly slow. Let's go ahead and turn off this other radar feed here. Okay, and let's go ahead and turn on the storm warnings. All right, same location. Here we go again. To get a better idea on this, let me back this out just a little. Okay, now we have 2 tornado warnings, not 1. We've got this one here down to the south. It's not. Here we go. Tornado warning down here to the south, and another one to the north, directly over the area only. That's 2 tornadoes now that are confirmed. They don't issue these tornado warnings unless there's an actual rotation spotted or a trained storm spotter is on the scene. And we still have 2 possible detections of tornadoes as well, the computer's detecting. And both are at, again at a strength of 15. So overall, guys, you know, it's not about, I'm convinced, okay? I'm trying to convince you. There is no fighting me on this. If you're a troll, you think you can come in and talk me down or tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm presenting what I believe to be true, okay? And I think the science backs me up at this point. In the past, I can understand how people were skeptical because the experiments hadn't been done. Nobody had done the microwave test or the laser test. Everybody said it was impossible to modify the weather. They said it was impossible. Quote unquote, so many of these forums and skeptics, it's impossible to modify the weather. High power energy systems will never do any of that. Not even lasers, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay. So, you know, all that denial, people telling you what can't be done, I'm tired of that. There's so many people that tell you what cannot be done that it's, you know, how would they know? How would they know what can and cannot be done? They haven't done the experiments. They're going to sit there and pronounce to you what can and cannot be done while they've never actually even tried. Say, prove it. And then they say to you, well, no, it's up to you to prove it. Okay, well, we are. Here it is. Proof, again. And again, you don't have to just take this anecdotal evidence of tornadoes forming directly over the transmitters only as your only proof. Now you can see the stripping of ions before your eyes and the rotation that happens when that happens. Again, because of the positive and negative charge of the surrounding air versus the stripped negative ions. And again, it's stripping ions from electrons in the air using a high-powered transmission. Same thing that's happening now on the screen in front of you. Stripping ions from the air over the transmitter. And as it passes away, it will die out till it comes over the next transmitter in the next sphere of influence of the next high-powered system. And unfortunately, they've set up the next rads to be in a tandem all the way across the country. Again, let's look at it one more time. For all the people who said it was impossible for it to happen, look at the beam stripping ions. You can see it for your own eyes. There's the rotation in front of you caused by the superheating of the atmosphere as the ionization takes place. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, folks. Here. I'm just doing a quick follow-up. I haven't updated the video yet, and it's 1:28 a.m. Central Time now on Monday, April 27th. And I just wanted to show you what's happened here. The storm has lingered out here over the area, specifically over the NEXRAD radar, for the last several hours, from 10:30 going now till 1:30 in the morning. Now look at this. Look what's actually happened. See this? The curvature on the storm? It formed into this. You saw it before. It formed into this going right over that radar station, directly going over it. So to show that to you, I'm just going to bring you over here, back over to the NEXRAD, and I'm just going to go ahead and add this on to the end of the video. You know, this is real time as it's happening, guys. So we'll look at the last 200 images again, and you saw that earlier. So now this is just a little bit later. We'll just let that all load. And we're waiting for this, of course. This is the National Weather Service feed through College of DuPage. This has nothing to do with my connection time. They're obviously trying to service a lot of people right now because a lot of people are checking in on this major tornado outbreak that occurred down here in Texas. And it is major, a 3-hour-long tornado-type event going across the area. Now watch this. You can even see it while it's still loading. You see that? Wait for it to pass over the NEXRAD station, right at the center. You see the little dot, the cone of silence. And wait for it to pass over. Now watch. Boom. You know, there it is, guys. I mean, the whole storm is taking a rotation now. Not just the cells. The whole storm itself is becoming cyclonic, so to speak. That's the eye of the entire front. Look at that. That would be a tornado the size of a county. If it was a tornado, we're talking about major damage down here. Just over the NEXRAD radar going into Dallas. no doubt about it. When you see this hook on here, that's normally a tornado. So to get a hook that size, a several mile wide event, whatever that is, and that kicked up. Again, the radar station's right here where my mouse is. Get my mouse out of the way. Watch where the rotation starts to form, the major rotation. Right there. And then it kicks off, sucks the storm in, and goes over. The chances of it happening over the next rad are very slim in itself, especially to see a storm that size. I want to bring you back over really quick, and we'll take a quick look at what's going on the Weather Channel. Wow. You know, just that alone right there says it all. Pretty interesting to see, guys. Much love. Be safe.